Welcome, everyone. Dave and I are really excited about the episode today. It's all about blocks to manifestation, blocks to healing, whatever is blocking what you're trying to create. So, Dave, we've talked about this quite a bit.
We have. And you know, you used the word block. That's a good one. Blocks are great, and it's a nice way of saying it. There's also another way to look at it is there's some debris on the path. And if you're going down a path, you don't want to trip on the debris or the junk. You want to kind of clean it up, right? And get it out of the way. And it can also be inhibiting, right? It can also slow things down.
Another way we could think about it, I like this analogy a lot, is think of it as static, right? So the signal doesn't get through clearly because there's so much static in the channel.
Yeah. Or there's friction. Or there's things slowing it down, or things that are actually impeding it from even happening. So no matter what term that we use, we know that some things are, for whatever reason, not helping us manifest or create what we're trying to create.
Right. And we have really both individually, just personally, but in general also as teachers, a lot of compassion and understanding for this because all of us have dealt with it. There's not a single person I know who has not had to deal with what's this interference? Why isn't it working? And then you start getting frustrated and feeling more powerless and oh, forget it. None of this works. I just have to go back to the official line of consciousness and work hard and plan everything out and go for my goals to the point of exhaustion.
Yeah, right. And it's not about that. And we need to remind ourselves that we're working from the inside out. We're working from our beliefs, thoughts, ideas, emotion, and imagination. So that's from where we're going to go. So we actually need to look at some of those things that we've adopted. And I know you have examples. I also have examples that we can bring to the forefront, and perhaps people will then start to identify some of their own roadblocks, debris, however it blocks.
Yeah, whatever image you want to use for that. So as we're recording this, we're imminently about to launch the first ever Seth Center course on abundance. It's called Manifest Abundance from the Inside Out. And Dave will be teaching it. Dave has personally applied the Seth material to this area to incredible success. So Dave, we talked about what do you feel? What do you see is the maybe top one or two things that when people are trying to manifest abundance, they're trying to change their financial reality that undermines their success? What's behind it?
Yeah, happy to talk at that. But look, it's abundance. People think abundance, it's all about money. Yeah, well, that's part of it. There's other forms of abundance in our lives, relationships, friendships, there's abundance of health, there's abundance of creativity. So, but in this particular case, we'll just stick with financial abundance because I know a lot of people are very interested in that, and I certainly was. So when we we have to look at what are the prevailing ideas, thoughts in the world about wealth, right? So when you look at that, and I had to look at this, well, I didn't have to, but I chose to because it couldn't get much worse for me. And I'm going to save that story for another time. But what I realized was that my ideas about wealth, abundance, what being wealthy meant, what being rich meant, there was some really, some ideas like, rich people have no spiritual component to themselves. They must have killed someone to get this money. If I get money, I'm not going to be any good either. So I had some of these thoughts and ideas about what wealth and abundance meant. It hit me like a ton of bricks. And there's ideas, and you have to ask, where did these come from? Mm-hmm. Well, they come from our culture. They come from religion. They come from science even. So, for example, I'll just use a biblical one, filthy lucre.
Right.
Money is the root of all evil.
So a lot of people who would be interested in our podcast are definitely, they're on a personal growth spiritual journey.
Sure.
And no matter what organized religion or major spiritual tradition you come from, it pretty much has an oppositional relationship of financial abundance, material wealth with spiritual wealth. You can have one or the other, but if you want spiritual wealth, you have to rise above like any kind of material desires.
And you shouldn't care about that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't even desire it.
Exactly.
That's wrong. Like,
it's wrong.
But even though you need money to live, you need money to eat, unless, food just is thrown at you.
So right there we have a big conflict where, let's say there is a large part of you is wanting to live a certain lifestyle. Like maybe it's not in and of the money itself, but you want a certain quality of life. You want to have freedom. You want to be able to have enriching experiences. You want to be able to travel, whatever the things are. But then on the other hand, you're very committed to spiritual growth, spiritual path, and you still have these constructs, these deep-seated beliefs that is the opposite of spiritual.
Yeah. So you're starting to point out that within ourselves, and you can have conflicting views, conflicting beliefs. Like on the one hand, you go, I want to be like Aunt Katie. She gets to travel and it's like all this. Then you think a little bit later that day, it's like, yeah, but Aunt Katie's not very spiritual. It's like she just enjoys her life. And so you can have an idea. On one hand, you want something. On the other hand, it's not very good. And these beliefs can flip-flop. What ends up happening is, and we'll go deeper in this with this and how to deal with it in the course that I teach, is we need to start to resolve some of these and then get rid of some of these ideas and beliefs. And they may be outdated. We may have picked them up along the way from very well-meaning people, parents, teachers, figures in our lives, friends, the community. So they can come, it doesn't really matter where they come from. Okay? Doesn't really. But as we start to examine what we really think and believe about things, we then help to create what we do experience because of the beliefs and ideas that we hold. Reality is that reflective place. It's like it's showing us what our beliefs and ideas and thoughts and emotions really are.
Right.
It can't help but.
So basically what we're talking about is conflicting, opposing belief systems and the emotions, attitudes, expectations, and imagination that cluster with them. And if we step back, because the way that Seth describes like how we create our physicalized, materialized experience of reality from the inside out is the electromagnetic energy and the creative energy of thought, imagination, belief, expectation, right? So it's just being outpictured. So if you think of it from like energy or frequency or something like that, you have one signal, oh, this is what I want, but then you have a opposing signal, oh no, that would be bad, we don't want that. And so they start to either cancel each other out or they get entangled and kind of implode inwards. You just tangle the energy up. So instead of a clear signal being able to project into materialization, you've got it entangled or just blocking.
So you might get halfway power, if that makes sense. Like some of the power is getting through to create, but it's not a full dose of power. You might let 30% in,
right,
or 70% in.
Right.
So in this situation, what we see is you might see people who allow themselves to be successful only to a certain degree.
And then you hit that ceiling.
And that's enough.
Uh-oh.
I can't go any further than that because it's dangerous, for example. Or I'm not worthy, for example.
Or I'll lose
it's
all my
wrong,
friends.
for example.
No one will love me anymore.
So there's so we put
yeah.
Our ideas can then act as governors on us. Like, you know how
rate
engines
limiting.
get governed up to a certain level. So what we'd like to do is, and that's fine, you want to put a governor on yourself, go for it. Like, you don't have to, But that leads into, well, is it a safe universe or not? And in my view, having the experience of allowing it to be a safe universe, taking some of the governing beliefs and ideas out and off, allowing the full thrust of energy to come through you so that you can create what you want to create. And I don't just mean wealth or money. I mean, you can create a business, you can create a philosophy, you can create art, you can create health,
relationships,
whatever. You can create a new widget that then, so you can be really beneficial. It's not just, okay, you open the door to these beliefs and all this bunch of money just dumps on you. It's not like that. Like, the way that it works is that you release the governors, you release some of the beliefs, the energy can come through you, and then the really cool thing is you then can operate unencumbered in your reality, and you create what is of interest to you.
Right.
Right? So it's not like, oh, now you're going to win the lottery and 10 mil hits you. No, you have to go down a path and create something, and then the money follows that, or the wealth, the abundance, all that. Do you follow me?
Following down that path, how these things, like the different ways they can operate, right? So they can create a ceiling where when it starts to reach a threshold, now you're going to have to undermine it. It'll sabotage. Something will happen, et cetera. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the kinds of beliefs, because I want people to be alert to these kinds of things. So you may not be realizing that these are limiting belief systems, let's say in the field of, or in the arena of money, finances. So, you have to work really hard. You have to work hard. Or the way, the people that you've seen make money, they do it in this particular way.
Right.
But that particular...
So you get ideas about how things
you
actually
have to be
work.
in the corporate world. You have to work 60, 80 hours a week. But then you don't want to do any of that. So now you're not going to be able to create what you want. Or you don't want to be like so-and-so.
So what do you want to know?
Yeah, no, I'm just.
You're getting alive to some of this.
Yeah, I want people to think about assumptions about how the world works, right? Because it might not just be your beliefs about, money isn't spiritual. It can be
all kinds of things.
It can be your worldview about how the world works or what's possible for you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, for example, in the age that I grew up in, it was really before, women's liberation that was just starting, and women were not in the workforce. And, I thought I could not make the kind of money to live the way I wanted to live unless I was married. It had to come through a man.
Okay. Yeah, right? I follow that. I understand.
Because it just wasn't even a thing.
And that's still prevalent today, is it not?
Well, less so, but... Or I couldn't make money in a way that was true and authentic to my nature. I would have to do it in a way that would compromise my natural energy.
Right.
Right? So
there's a cost to it.
Yeah, there's a cost to it. So as in this area, or in every area, when you're examining beliefs, when you're trying to discover what it is that is either limiting, holding back, blocking, interfering with, think about or do belief exercises around, well, how does the world work like this? Well, what's possible for a person like me? Or what would I have to do? Or how would I have to be in order to have what I want? Because then you may discover all the things that, well, I don't want to be like that, and I don't want to have to do that.
Right.
So
it might
then
take too much time.
That.
It's going to take X years, or
right. Or I have to behave or act, or it just, I don't want to have to operate in life in that way. So then I can't have what I want, but I keep wanting it. So I'm trying to get it on the one hand, but on the other hand, all of this, I can't do it in a way that will feel good or work for me.
This area is good in that it's our training ground to learn how to manage our energy, learn how to manage, and it doesn't mean constrict, it means truly manage, like
direct,
move stuff
shape,
around, change things, change our ideas, and, really like, and see the results of this process. So it can actually be, you can take it seriously, and it is, but you can also play with it a bit too. And it's like, and it's not, we don't want to make this seem so complex. It's not.
No.
And you can actually move the building blocks of your thoughts and ideas around quite easily.
Exactly. And this is something that Seth emphasized over and over and over again, is that all of these belief systems, the emotions, everything in the your inner psyche, it's meant to be like playful, creative, fluid, mobile. There's no need to keep it stuck in some deep entrenched groove.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
You can just move them around, shape them. You're the only one who can say what you agree to think and what you don't agree to think. I can't go in there and
even though you've tried.
I can't. I am not the chooser inside anybody else.
And you can choose. This is kind of cool. Remember the point of power. Like, you can choose, you know what? I'm going to work and play in this area. Like, that's what happened to me. I really got to a place, this is long ago. It's like, this has got to, I'm going to change something. I don't know what.
But I'm going to do something.
How, but something's got to shift.
Yeah.
Like, so, at any rate, so please keep that in mind. Presence of point of power. You can do something in this area to make things change for the better.
So this is one of the things that Dave and I have experienced and learned in ourselves, and all our students and everybody that we know, is that conflicting, opposing constructs, belief systems are one of the most common reasons why people aren't getting the results that they want whenever they try to apply these teachings. So the other thing that I would say that we both have noticed is one of the most common things is these deeply held, artificial, false guilt, shame, worthiness issues. So
punishment.
So you can't have guilt without punishment, two sides of the same coin. And I see this a lot too in the area of health, where people are holding these attitudes that, again, where does it come from? You don't come in born, feeling bad about yourself. Like, you have to be taught this through belief systems of your family, your culture, your schools, your religion, society, what you see in media. It just gets it's like mass hypnosis system everywhere. And then you start to adopt them and believe them about yourself. And this is one of, like, especially in the area of the body, because, if you believe in some way, shape, or form that there's something basically bad or wrong or shameful or unworthy or unlovable, or that you should be guilty because you're not doing like the should of this or that, then that punishment can turn in on itself, right? And now you're sacrificing or punishing yourself through health issues. That's a very common.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the most common, we'll just call it poor belief systems or poor belief structures or unconstructive? What are some of the most common that you see?
In general, or about the body? Or
about when it comes to health.
And when it comes to health.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
What's common out there?
I'm not safe in the world. I'm susceptible to any passing, bacteria or virus. I'm
not immune.
I don't have my own immunity. Illness just happens to me I have no responsibility for it. It's just something that happens to me.
Okay.
That would be one. So it's like a deep-seated belief in
so the
lack
symptoms
of
can be
safety
almost
and
anything,
powerlessness. Really. Yeah, it just is that the world is not safe, you're not safe, and you don't have power over your health, that maybe your genes are determining it. It's heredity. Well, all the women in my family have this, or my father had that, or whatever. So therefore,
So it's almost the opposite of you create your own reality. Reality is imposed upon you from exterior sources.
Right. And it's either accidental or no particular cause or meaning, but you certainly have no part in it.
So let me ask you this. For people that maybe don't believe that or hedging on, like, what typical ways do people start to transition to, I'm creating my own reality somehow? Not sure how. Do you follow the question I'm trying to ask?
Typical
how
ways,
do you get there?
I think there's innate knowledge in us. So our inner self is always going to be trying to move us into the direction of that kind of becoming aware of the creative power, our creative power to generate our experience. I think, people get exposed to different things. Sometimes a lot of it, how a lot of people come to it? Because conventional medicine can't do anything for them.
Oh, right. Because it didn't work.
Yeah, that's where a lot of it, because for the most part, at least in, North America, if you go to a typical doctor, he or she has two things that they can offer you: some kind of pharmaceutical drug or a surgical procedure. That's basically it. Diagnostic tests are not treatments. So getting x-rays, MRIs, this scan, that's not a treatment.
Right.
It's not a cure. So what can they actually give you? They can prescribe a medication or they can do a surgery. That's pretty much the size of the toolbox.
And looking inside you, it's like they're looking for what's wrong.
Right. It's a disease model. It's looking in a very mechanistic way. And it's, again, looking as though everything is from the outside in. And, I have to say medical science is growing, evolving, and changing. Interestingly, our information technology has kind of driven a lot of that. So I won't go deep into it here. It's not the place for it. But what I would say is that people, they just kind of get to the end of the road of putting all the power for their bodies, all the authority, all the expert outside of themselves. They're not getting the results. They've gotten frustrated, but they're still, everywhere you go, you're still in your body. It's not like, I'm just going to take the car into the shop and I can forget about it. Like, you have to live in your body every day. So then that is this motivation to find a better solution.
Well, here's the question. I'm going to go upstream a little bit. It's like, so are you implying that symptoms have some meaning? Or some illnesses or conditions or...
Like everything.
Can you describe that a little? Because that's,
Yeah, your symptoms are not,
that's a big
first
jump
of all,
for some people.
Haphazard or accidental. Everything is coming from the inside out. If all of physical reality is a projection from inner reality, then if you want to understand your particular symptoms, you have to see what they are representing for you, because in a way, it's a physical symbolization,
right,
or a physicalization of an inner psychic symbol. So, why is it affecting this part of your body and not another?
Oh, I see.
Right? Why is it in this tissue group or that organ system versus another one? So when you start to look at first of all, the body has its own wisdom and intelligence, and every cell is conscious, right? And so your thoughts and emotions and attitudes and beliefs are washing over your cells day in and day out, sending information signals to them about how they should perform and who they are and what they are, right? It's sending, you're communicating to your body your own beliefs about who and what you think you are and what is possible for you. So when we talk about, for example, I'll give a very concrete example so we can talk about something like stress, right? Well, there's a whole science of stress. There's a whole thing of understanding the electrochemical expression of stress, what it does to different organ systems, different systems in your body. However, the experience of stress is highly variable and individual. What you might find very stressful, another person is barely touched by it, right? But so it's your thoughts and attitudes and beliefs. It's your personal, like, mental, emotional experience that is now triggering your body into higher or lower degrees of stress, right? So it's variable in that way. So it's true for kind of everything. People don't want to look at it that way because then they start going into blame and the feeling like, oh, I can't take responsibility for that, because then you would blame yourself and be beating yourself up. That's not the point of it. You don't have any power if you don't have responsibility. You can't change anything that you don't have any power over.
Well, how about a hypothetical? What the hell?
Let's do a hypothetical.
So let's say, I don't know, I'm wandering around and I'm living my life, and all of a sudden I come down with some, I know. I come down with I'm traveling. I'm in a foreign country. All of a sudden it's like I go into, my body's shutting down. Like my pancreas is like basically blown itself up, or is liquefying itself in front of my. So they put me in the hospital.
That's
like
pretty extreme.
My life comes to a halt. Essentially, I'm stuck in a hospital. In fact, it gets so bad, I've got to be put into a coma, an induced coma.
Wow.
To keep me alive. So like when, this is actually a real story. It's not mine, but I use it as an example. It's like, in a situation like that, if you were, observing it, like, what questions would you ask, either of yourself or if it was your patient, you would be? I would be really, I think this is interesting.
Yeah,
because,
I mean, that's a very extreme case. And, again, so we'd have to be looking really individually. Okay, what was your basic attitude about where you were in life at that time? Were you feeling... What's going on? Were you feeling like... Because, were you feeling like things were going well? You were, engaged with things that were fulfilling? Were you having deep-seated doubts about the meaning and purpose and value of your life? Like, if you're being brought to a crisis,
so lots of
situation,
value kinds of.
Yes, when you're being brought to a crisis situation, sometimes it's really that there is some really big wake-up call you're trying to give yourself.
Right.
Or you're really coming to like the way that you are living, the value you're experiencing your life is so like lacking or empty, or there's some, again, really big conflict that you can't resolve internally. It could be like some major conflict. It doesn't even have to necessarily be about conflicting beliefs, but maybe it's some irreconcilable conflict in a relationship. You feel it's irreconcilable. Right. So if it's being built up to that point, another way, banging my mic here, another thing that I could conjecture, let's say, that could lead to such a crisis situation is, what was it? Give me a second here. I'm trying to remember where I was going to go with that. Like a heroic thing of life or death. It could be wanting to make a really major change.
So it's not accidental. It's actually creating a crisis.
Yeah, it's
for a meaningful purpose.
Right. Yes, it's crisis or a way to be like shown that like the world does care about you, that you do matter, that somebody will help you. Or for some people, it could just be a kind of like face-saving way. They're pretty much done with this life,
right?
But they need a face-saving exit, right?
Yeah.
That people can accept because they don't have to then justify why they're actually done with this particular lifetime.
Okay.
I mean, there's so many different things that can be involved.
I appreciate those comments.
Yeah.
Like you're basically painting this picture of everything in these health-related, medical-related situations is meaningful. From
Yeah.
the timing to whatever it
What
is.
body part, what symptom it is,
Right.
how severe it is.
So can people actually figure all that out by themselves? Or do they need to? I'm just
Yeah.
train of consciousness here. What do you think?
Okay. Let me answer that in two ways. So, yes, of course you can figure it out yourself. In practicality, because there's often so much denied, repressed emotional reality, like you deny, repress how you actually really think and feel about things, because to your conscious mind, it would be intolerable to fess up to what it is, or it would be shameful, or whatever your thing is. So yes, of course you can. It's your own body. It's your own consciousness. You are the only one who can actually, truly, fully know. Nobody, you're the expert in your life. You and your inner self are the ultimate experts. In practicality, because most people have such a habit pattern of ignoring or denying what they're thinking and feeling and believing, or they're accepting beliefs about reality as facts, so they never even think to question it. It's just a fact about reality. And the other thing is that we all have blind spots. Your inner self would not are like, you would not need to catch the attention of your conscious mind through a symbol as a symptom if you were dealing with it.
Oh, if you were dealing,
right?
Yeah, so, okay.
You wouldn't need to.
So these are things that haven't been attended to for whatever reason.
It hasn't been
or you're
attended
ignoring
to.
it.
You're ignoring it. It
Right.
hasn't been attended to because you're meant to solve it on the inside, not by treating it from the outside, which isn't to say, by the way, disclaimer, we're not saying don't get medical treatment, don't see a doctor. We are not saying that.
What are we saying? If we're not saying that.
We're saying that you have the right, the power, and the ability to heal yourself from the inside out, to understand your own issues and to transform them.
So can you do both and get effective results and
Of
solutions?
course you can.
Okay.
Of course you
Meaning
can.
using the medical strategies of the day and also what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So here's another question. It's kind of like maybe not the last question, but it could be. And that is, Seth talked about you can gain exuberant health, like the kind of health you had when you were a kid. And, you woke up every day, just couldn't wait to get at it and running down the hall. There's breakfast. Who cares? Like, I'm out the door. You're playing with your friends. So that kind of exuberant health that Seth was talking about, how do we get to that?
Well,
any
first
suggestions?
Of all, yes. First of all, you have to realize that the unlimited pure vitality of all existence, of all beingness, is ever emerging, ever fresh. Every breath you take is a new, fresh breath, right? So unlimited vitality is always available, but we're having some kind of interference pattern, right?
Okay.
So it's
but what
always
if I don't,
available.
Like, I know we've talked about people with symptoms and some extreme stuff, but let's just say
you're in general good health,
you're
right?
generally in good health, but it's not like exuberant,
right?
Which is what we're talking about.
So if we're talking about nature of reality according to the teachings of the Seth material, right? So it's from the inside out. So Seth has given basically hundreds of processes, practices, exercises, but they all kind of boil down to the same thing. One, you, in some way or another, you discover and change any of these interfering, limiting beliefs. A number of ways you can do that.
So kind of cleaning up.
You can use imagination, self-suggestion in different kind of slight altered states. You can use the dream state to heal, to promote vitality, to resolve any conflicting, opposing beliefs. Like, those are really, ultimately, you have to work directly with your own consciousness, either in from waking state, from slight altered states or trances where you kind of take yourself into a relaxed state, use your inner senses, or from the dream state. So you have all these different ways, and you can keep calling on the unlimited power of your inner self to help you resolve these things. You don't necessarily have to sort of like mentally work them all out.
Right.
You don't.
So it doesn't have to be hard?
No, it doesn't have to be hard, because one of the hallmarks is ease and pleasure.
Right.
Doing this in a creative, playful way.
But we've been taught, you have to work hard to get something done. You got to work hard, like, or you know what I'm trying to say?
Well,
It's got to be hard to be good.
I know. I mean, and so many cultures have this like value system on hard work, except this is a misunderstanding. If you changed your value system to alignment, to knowing the power of your being, to playful creative joy, and let that do it, because I love using this example of when is the most intense rapid growth period, physically, mentally, in whatever way you want to think of it, is early childhood, and children learn through play. They learn through fun and play.
Yeah.
That is the most powerful, effective way to learn, is fun and play and imagination, not through hard work. This is a misunderstanding. And again, it brings in a lot of the kinds of belief systems that affect money and health, where, self-sacrifice, you have to work hard, you're not, you have to prove your worth and value through hard work. If you're not working hard, then we have to shame you and guilt you. Now you're being lazy. Now you're being indulgent. Like, oh, how dare you make millions of dollars in a fun, easy way when all the rest of us have to slave at our jobs that we hate, right?
What is it? The devil makes use of idle hands?
Exactly. It's all over the place.
Yeah, you can't.
Now, you can't just like lay up in bed and have this happen. You have to engage. You do need to use your energy, your natural abilities and talents. The intrinsic drive is not only to fulfill value for yourself, but to contribute to value in your community, in the collective. That's natural for us. We want to contribute value to other people. So you would have to interfere with that if you weren't, right? It would be natural for you to do something that fulfills you and contributes value to others. It would be unnatural not to do that.
That's great.
Yeah. So let me ask you, Dave, let's circle back, because I know you're like kind of, but I really want you to talk about, like, where does all this guilt, how does that affect health and money? Like, where is all this guilt coming from, and what do we do about that? How do you get rid of guilt?
I don't know. No,
you talk to me about your
big G,
ongoing,
as we call it, the big G.
The big G. Do we call it that?
I do. Well, I do with some of my friends. The big G. So one of my mentors, my best friend's dad, he had a garden, right? And he would go out. He was an old guy by then. He was in his 70s somewhere. A community garden, and we lived. It was not quite a commune, but at any rate. And he'd be out there sweating away, really hot, humid. And he would always say to everyone, "Oh, come with me. Come and work in the garden. Come and work in the..." And, putting on a sorrowful, like, this guy's a PhD, he directs this giant center. And he's out there sweating his ass off, hoeing a thing. And I'm going, his name was Guy. I was going, "Guy, what are you doing? Why do you putting guilt trips on all of us to help you in the garden?" And he goes, "It's a powerful tool, Dave." And it's true. Guilt is so powerful in this world, because it gets you to either do or not do things, right? Like, it stops you. It also, when you reflect upon it, it taps into something that we've been conditioned, and in fact across the world, that you are not good. In fact, you were born bad. Many religions teach this. Many cultures teach this. Even science teaches this. Like, you're a product of evolution, and in fact, you can't really trust yourself too far, because you could, if you came to work on had a bad night, You could poison the water. You could strangle everyone. You could shoot everybody. Like all this shit. Like you could. I've got a good friend who says this. So there's a guilt for stuff you haven't even done, but you could.
So it's
right?
a general belief.
There's a general belief in badness, evilness. Things will not come to fruition. It's a bad planet. We're raping and destroying it. Man is not good.
Right.
And
right.
his acts and his, the things that he does are not good. So it's a prevailing belief system that has spread rampantly across the world for literally hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Thousands of years,
From the religious side, that's a long story, too long for now, but it's also been a way of, it's a recruitment
All right,
method,
so
right?
how do people? Okay, we talked about how you might be able to resolve opposing beliefs, and actually I should mention something a little bit here about how you can use the dream state to create bridge beliefs or to harmonize beliefs. But basically, once you expand your perception, once you see through something, that is one of the best ways. But let's talk about how can people deal with this sort of underlying sort of atmospheric climate system of guilt.
Okay. So if you're with the discussion now and you realize like, oh yeah, I do. I've actually bought into this whole guilt system, guilt trip tickets. I'm not buying. Well, number one, stop buying tickets.
On the guilt train.
Guilt trip. Exactly. Like, so it's as easy when you change a belief like guilt. And guilt can be purposeful and meaningful. So for example, if you kill something, like you kill a bird or you kill an animal or something, and you get a profound sense of conscience, right? Like you feel bad about it, and it was meaningless, really. Like you just did it. Okay, so you get this pang of consciousness. What that's saying, and that's natural guilt. Don't do it. Don't kill. And then, but if you're having guilt on other things, there can be a form of guilt called unnatural guilt. So it's, guilt of, guilt of having too much, or guilt of...
because you didn't call your mother.
You didn't call... Oh my God. But that's a sin. Of course it's not. But you've been taught...
You wore the wrong thing. The dress was too short. The top was too low.
So you can literally make yourself feel bad. Not only feel bad, but sick, because you've done all this stuff. You're such a bad person. And so really you have to examine consciously some of these things around guilt and the feeling of guilt and the belief that you're bad or that you're doing bad things or you're making bad judgments about things, and consciously start to dismiss these.
Right. So Seth does go into very deep detail about what he calls natural guilt and artificial guilt, and how... I mean, it's actually a pretty deep subject because it ties into the emergence of self-aware ego consciousness and this power of choice in the moment of choosing. Whereas, let's say, at least in this reality system on the planet, a lot of these things in animals are guided by instinct. It's not do I want to go chase that animal and eat it or not? It's not like that. It's kind of more of an instinctual drives. But for us, because we were like, okay, we want to get really good at mastering the creative use of thought, emotion, all that energy to create reality so that we can go into more expanded reality systems. So the artificial guilt are things that are more, culturally dependent or family dependent, that are not really true in the natural world. And the natural guilt is really things that are true violations to life and to the free will of and the integrity of other living systems. Yeah. Right?
Let me add a couple things in that come to mind. And it's... I think as people are listening and as we're talking, you start to realize, I do feel guilty about all this stuff, and it's all just kind of, I've created it. Well, that's fine. And it's not that fine, but you created this stuff.
But it's good to recognize it.
Let's clean house.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of some of these old ideas, and let's get rid of some of these things that I continue to beat myself up about from, decades ago,
Right.
100 years ago, unlike I'm done with that. So you can get rid of the guilt, you can drop it, and you can drop any punishments you decided because you were such a bad person. Not really. You can get rid of all the punishment that goes along with that. And that's a good thing. And that in and of itself is a really constructive and positive step that you may not have ever tried before, but it's really worth having a go at it.
Well, I'm thinking here as I'm listening to this, I'm kind of telepathically picking up on future listeners what they might be saying, where they're saying, "How can you say that human nature isn't bad? And then look at the wars, look at the atrocity, look at what we've done to the planet, to climate. Look at all of this, look at all of that." If we looked at it like, let's step way back. Okay, what is creating these kind of conditions is actually a lot of these very widespread beliefs that we aren't good, that our nature is not good, that we're basically something is wrong, bad, flawed, unacceptable inside us. So then what do you do with that? So either you're repressing your own energy, you're exerting punishment on yourself, or you're hating yourself, but you can't live too much day to day with that. So let me get rid of that. I'm going to project it out. All those people from that country or that race or that sexual identity, they're the ones that are bad and shameful and wrong, and the world would be much better if we could just get rid of them.
Yeah. However, and all that on a mass scale is right. So if we want things to get better, Michaela, we actually have, which I've realized is we actually have to start with ourselves.
Right.
So start at home, act locally, think globally, all that kind of stuff. But really, even though it's a small way, we start to prove it to ourselves that we can actually make a change. Like if we can make a change to ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. We can actually then start to, and we actually do affect the rest of the world and and our community and so forth.
Very powerfully.
Yeah.
The energy, the thoughts of love, compassion are, that is a powerful impact. So let's see if we can get into some practical things. I did mention something about how you could incubate dreams or suggest in your dreams that you would have bridge beliefs that would harmonize opposing structures. Another thing that you could do, especially in the area of health, is use a kind of question for yourself, not to necessarily come up with a mental answer, but more as a felt sense of where and how am I impeding my energy? Where am I not allowing the vitality of my being to freely express and flow? Where am I blocking expression?
Right. Yeah. That's great.
Those are some good exercises.
Yeah.
Anything else that comes to mind? What have you done? Because to get rid of guilt, you have to accept the truth that you are intrinsically, basically good, despite anything.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you?
Well, I think it all works. You kind of work. You work all fronts at the same time, right? So you're working on some dream stuff. You're working on your conscious beliefs, your subconscious beliefs. You're looking at the beliefs that you project outwards into the world. And actually, when you do all of that together, strangely, your health improves. Your psyche, your soul kind of gets unencumbered from some of this, the debris or the rubbish that we've been carrying around. So it's you're actually working across a number of areas. And surprisingly, it has a spiritual component to, which I never suspected, but I don't know. It's a byproduct, shall we say. So that part grows too, but unsuspected by me, at least. At any rate, so I think as we work on our beliefs across a number of areas, it actually improves not only your own health, well-being, outlook on life, joy, fun. All of those things start to change And obviously, then the exterior environment changes too.
Yeah.
How surprising. Not
Yeah.
really, but because you've changed your beliefs about yourself, your reality, and how things really are, the external reality changes accordingly. At least that's how it seems. And it is. Because you're expecting something different.
Right.
You have a new belief about reality, that it can be actually joyous, beneficial, abundant. But you started it, and maybe this is a great place to end. You started it from the inside out.
Absolutely. So, what I could recommend, I mean, definitely we offer, different courses and programs at the Seth Center where, our faculty who are really been, deep students of the Seth material and applied it for themselves and taught others. There are finer points of it. You could go there, but always go straight to the source. Like, I would say on the topics that we're talking about today, probably the number one book I would recommend would be The Nature of Personal Reality. I think that's just kind of like, your basic primer to the core Seth principles. And there's lots of exercises in there, and he goes into deep detail about all of this.
Oh, definitely.
But there is no way really to have sustainable physical, financial health and well-being while holding on to very poor quality limiting beliefs, like you just about yourself, about the world. You either can have joy and freedom and health, or you can have those old stories, but you can't really have both.
No, that's true. That's great. Thanks a lot, Michaela.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Really great discussion.
All right, we'll see you again on another episode.
For deeper perspectives on reality, manifestation, consciousness, and personal and collective evolution, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Seth Center. We share quotes, clips, insights, and fresh angles on all the big questions, all rooted in the Seth material and designed to support your growth from the inside out.